Globally, the average person spends over 6 hours, nearly 7 hours of their day in front of a computer screen. That's like a third of their day or a third of their life is spent in front of some kind of screen. Assalamu alaikum, welcome back to my channel. My name is Safa and today we're going to talk about phone addiction. For people over the age of 16 who have access to any form of technology, 97% of them have access to a smartphone, which makes smartphones the most accessible means of communication through the internet or just technology access in general. This means for the most part, it is in the best interest of a lot of organizations and corporations to maximize I'm in healthcare. Maximize smartphone usage for their benefit and for their bottom line. So it's not surprising that a lot of us find ourselves really addicted or feeling like we need to have our smartphone with us at all times throughout the entire day. And it's also not surprising that a lot of people are feeling a little bit burnt out from excessive phone use and all of the notifications and dopamine hits we constantly are getting throughout the day. That's why there's this whole movement going around where people are trying to do dopamine detoxes, and there's been this huge trend where people are trying to dumbify or convert to a dumb phone of some sort. Dumb phones I thought were just a popular trend for a while, but it seems like things are picking up and people are trying to find ways to minimize the dependency that they have on their phones. So unsurprisingly, I found myself a victim to phone addiction and I've been trying to deal with it for a couple of months, I would say. Ever since I realized I was spending way too much time on my phone, ever since I was able to see how much screen time I have on my phone, it has been mind-opening, mind-blowing, and incredibly disheartening to see how much time I'm spending on my phone. So first, let's talk about what the phone addiction looks like, at least in the setting of me. So first of all, every single waking moment, I just find that I am constantly in need of having access to my phone. I have to be watching something, listening to something, or just have something playing in the background as background noise while I do other tasks. We're talking between 4 to 7 hours on average a day just with access to my phone. So the reports I was mentioning earlier that have been compiled by Data Reportal, it was considering screen time from laptop, TV, obviously your cell phone, gaming consoles, and all of that. My screen time that I'm talking about is just with my cell phone. And keep in mind, I have a laptop, I have an iPad, I do not play games that much, but if I were, it would be on a computer or on my phone. And I do have a 9 to 5 where I'm in front of a screen constantly. So this is not including any of that. We're just talking about the screen time on my phone. That is a lot of time, literally almost a third of my time on my phone doing honestly nothing of real significance. I found this really cool website called Unplugged, and it looks like it's a UK-based company that has Airbnb type format or hotel type of accommodations where you can unplug from the world and just do a digital detox for a couple of days. But the reason I came across this was actually I wanted to calculate how much time I was wasting by constantly being on my phone. And I found that for every hour essentially that you're spending on average per day on your phone, you are essentially giving up about 2 years of your life or more, depending on how old you are. It's definitely an interesting tool. I found that if I continued on the path that I was on, I was looking at wasting 10 to as much as 15 years of my life in front of a computer screen doing nothing of importance. And that's 10 years not including just days. That's like 10 full years, 24 hours every single day, 365 days for 10 years. And so you can input how much time you're spending on your phone right now, how much you plan on spending for the rest of your life, and see how much time you're actually really using up or taking away from everything else you can do in the world. But before we go into all the other things you could be doing with your time, let's talk about the current consequences of my own actions. First of all, I found that my eyesight has gotten a little bit weaker, and I think, obviously I can't guarantee or conclude accurately that this is the reason for my weakness or eyesight weakness, but I feel like my eyesight has gotten worse faster because of how much time I was spending in front of a computer screen. Because like I mentioned before, I have a 9 to 5 where I'm basically in front of a computer screen all day, and then on top of that I have this phone that's in my face all the time. And yes, sometimes it's not in my face and I'm just listening to something, but most of the time, let's be real, I'm looking at a phone screen and it's like right in front of my face. Like I'll literally like this sometimes, and I'm like, why are you doing this? Like, let's put some distance. Second biggest impact that I had was I had so much difficulty focusing, and have continued to have difficulty with focusing because I'm constantly switching between tasks and constantly checking my phone or wanting to watch something or do something instead of focusing on the task at hand. It's like I can't function unless I have my like crutch, which is my phone, with me at all times. This has resulted in me taking a lot longer to do the same tasks that would take me maybe half the time just because I'm distracted. I've literally tried and tested this. This is true. I get so much more done, and I somehow am able to accomplish things in a better fashion just because I'm not listening to something or watching something while I'm doing those tasks. So that could be cleaning around the house, that could be working on like some kind of hobby that I'm interested in, or just exploring the world outside of just scrolling mindlessly. So the other thing that really impacted the way I functioned was the fact that I constantly needed background noise, like I mentioned. If I didn't have something playing in the background, it felt like really uneasy, to be honest, like something is missing and that it's just like a waste, honestly, because if I am going to be doing something with my hands, I might as well also be listening to something because you're being more productive that way. And as a side note, I almost feel like the whole productivity movement that I've been engaged in for so long has resulted or helped justify me constantly having something playing in the background, but really it's just taking too much out of me and it's draining me and slowing me down instead of letting me focus on the tasks at hand. And the last biggest impact that this whole thing has had, this phone addiction has had on me, is the fact that I feel agitated, confused, and often forgetful because of the fact that I'm constantly switching between tasks and constantly just reaching for my phone and not even realizing sometimes why I'm reaching for my phone. I've even found myself irritated when I don't have access to my phone, or really forgetful. I'm not even sure what is going on with like what day it is, where am I? Like this has been a huge problem. So that's the consequences and the negative sides of this phone addiction, but let's talk about the unseen consequences, which is the opportunity cost with spending so much time on your phone and what we could be doing instead. Instead of spending all these hours and literally years of our life in front of a phone screen, we could be doing so much more. Like literally, we could go and get another degree. We could learn a new language, pick up a new skill and hobby, and excel at it. And I think the biggest thing is we could spend so much more time getting better quality sleep, because Lord knows sleep is the thing that I think everyone suffers from. Having poor sleep, not getting enough sleep, and constantly being on our phones at night or first thing in the morning is probably affecting and preventing us from having better quality sleep. I mean, there's a reason it's a part of a basic sleep hygiene routine to stay away from your phone and to turn it off 1 to 2 hours before you go to bed. There's a reason for this, because we want to wind down. We don't want to be exposed to the blue light that's being emitted from our phones. It's all tied together. So literally, there's so much more that we could be doing. I think we need to understand how we got to this phone addiction situation in order to do better and fix it, hopefully. For myself, at least, I feel like I would like to believe this was a slow decline, but I think it was a pretty steep one, because I just found myself slowly but surely, and more likely almost immediately, finding myself constantly scrolling and looking for things to do, because the world is at your fingertips. That's the exciting thing about having phone technology, internet. You can see everything that is going around in the world, or at least what they want you to see. And I think we can thank the endless scroll that was developed, I think, just a few years ago, that keeps us on our phones, because it just feels like there's always more to watch, because there's always more to watch and consume. And of course, you'll find that all of the social media apps, including YouTube, has this feature where you can watch short form content and there's just always something new to watch. Just keep scrolling. This resulted in me constantly having something fun and interesting to see, and I honestly started to find that I wasn't just looking at one app constantly, which was TikTok primarily for myself. I started to even do the same thing on other apps when I did get bored of TikTok, which doesn't make really a lot of sense when you think about it, because it has a lot of the same or similar types of content. So it's not really like I'm getting something different. but in my mind it felt like I was doing something different. And honestly, the fact that I had between 6 to 8 hour days of scrolling essentially constantly throughout the entire day, I am pretty sure the only reason that my screen time was not more was because I actually do sleep and I do have a job, and so that was what's taking a lot of my screen time away. But of course, when you're sleeping, you have nothing else to do because you're sleeping, and when you're working, at least for me, I'm still in front of a computer screen all day. So if anything, I probably have double if not triple the amount that I see on my screen time record. And of course, obviously it feels really satisfying to watch all these videos. These are short clips that are made to make you feel something, I guess, and feel excited, get that dopamine hit. And I started to genuinely feel like uncomfortable if I wasn't constantly on my phone or if I was not in very close proximity to my phone. So how did I realize I had an actual problem? When I first came across my screen time usage and I saw that it was so high, I tried to control it and I used different ways. I tried to just stop using it as much as I wanted to, and I found that I couldn't control myself. I found that if I tried to set timers for myself or delay my usage until later in the day, it was not working. I was still getting my screen time in and it didn't really make that much of a difference, aside from like just a couple of days or a couple of weeks of me having controlled usage. Then I set timers or time limits on specific apps that were taking up a lot of my time and also were not very useful or something that I really cared to continue doing. I tried different varieties of things and I just felt like I always eventually came back to it. The only thing that seemed to really work is if I was very obsessive and constantly thinking about my phone usage, and then I would find that my screen time went down quite a lot. But that is obviously very draining and hard to continue to do. The point is you want to make everything that you're aspiring to do and accomplish as easy and as frictionless as possible, and there was a lot of friction. There was clearly a problem because if I did not constantly think about my phone usage, I was going to eventually start using my phone. And I also found that I did feel a little bit guilty because I would not hit the numbers that I was hoping to hit when it came to my screen time. And of course, when I did hit those numbers, it was amazing and I felt on top of the world, but it was still draining because, like I said, it was not an easy thing for me to maintain. So what's the plan moving forward and how have I been working on it right now? Clearly, I do want to reduce my screen time because it is still quite a lot. I will say that in the last couple of weeks, I have seen my screen time go down quite a bit. It still sits around 4 hours or 3 hours a week, per day per week. I think that's primarily because a lot of the times I've been trying to clear out my phone and upload things or download things, and this phone screen has to stay on when I'm doing that, and so I have spent literally hours just trying to accomplish that. I am unfortunately a little technically challenged, it seems. Those numbers for the last couple of weeks have been, I would say, artificially inflated. That said, I think I have figured out what the issues were, and moving forward we should be able to see what my real numbers are, so I'm very excited for the next couple of months. So what are the current plans and how should you go about reducing your screen time? So what are my current plans for reducing my screen time and my addiction to my phone, and how will I achieve these goals? So first, we want to reduce our screen time. Specifically, in my case, I feel like the biggest culprit for my screen time is the mindless scrolling. And I had to make the very tough, difficult decision to realize that I cannot deal with these apps, and I have removed many apps from my phone. Specifically, I started with removing the TikTok app. It almost felt like I had to parent myself and realize that this was a problem and this was the only solution. Like, it felt like I should be able to withstand clicking on TikTok whenever I open my phone, but that is not the case. And I had to realize that the hard way from trialing for the last couple of months. So I removed TikTok and I felt genuinely so much relief, and like a burden was lifted off of my shoulders. I still have access to TikTok. I still have a TikTok account. Follow me if you guys want to. But the fact that it is no longer on my phone for me was an indication that clearly I was not able to set the boundaries, and this was what feels like a drastic change I had to make in order to actually control myself from using my phone constantly. But I was so relieved that the next day I actually deleted Instagram, and then I thought, okay, let's sit on this for a little bit because maybe I'm just too excited. And then I also even deleted YouTube from my phone. Now, it's not to say that I don't use these apps or these social media platforms. I still use them. However, I'm finding that I will either use them on my computer, but for the most part, this has been deterrent enough for me to avoid using my phone for using these social media platforms. And honestly, it has been so nice and so stress relieving. So the current plan for modifying my screen time and fixing this screen addiction, specifically with my phone, is to first reduce the screen time by reducing my mindless scrolling. Second, I want to make sure that I'm not reaching for my phone first thing in the morning, preferably give it like, a little bit of time, allow myself to get up, freshen up, have some breakfast or something like that before I get to the point where I'm on my phone, and to also switch up my screen time for long form content or other things that I find interesting. You might have noticed that I've been sharing a lot of Pakistani drama reviews because honestly, that was one way for me to be distracted from mindlessly constantly scrolling and also engage in something that is a little bit more meaningful than just shorts or TikToks. The other thing that I'm trying to fill up my time with is to spend more time with friends and family, and I do feel like I've been doing that a little bit. I'm a little bit of a shy and introverted person, and I also live far away from family and a lot of friends, so it's a little bit difficult to do that. But I do feel like I'm taking out more time for family, and that's been great. So how are we going to achieve these goals, or some suggestions that you might want to consider if you're on the same path as me? I would highly suggest to delete the apps that have any features that are kind of addictive or get you to stay on the app. Specifically, any apps that have the endless scroll. So that's why I started off with deleting my TikTok app, which was honestly probably the best thing I could have done. After that, I actually deleted Instagram, and then I deleted YouTube. And honestly, the reason was because TikTok, as soon as I deleted it, I primarily use the TikTok app when I'm trying to do the endless scroll situation. However, I was feeling the need to start to use Instagram for that purpose. And I was already feeling great about deleting the TikTok app, so I didn't want to get into that. I deleted the Instagram app. And then I wanted to also prevent myself getting onto YouTube Shorts specifically because of the endless scroll. So I ended up deleting that app as well. And also, I want to be able to enjoy the long form content that I watch. So I'd rather watch it on a bigger screen. So I decided that deleting these 3 apps made a huge impact. The second thing is I have also been trying to consolidate everything and also just create boundaries with my devices and use them for specific purposes that make sense. I don't need to constantly be on my phone to watch things or listen to things, even though it is convenient. It's just not necessary. I have access to other devices that can do that, where I am not constantly staring at them or having to hold them or feeling like I need them with me at all times. And so that's what's been working for me. Again, I would say the biggest impact has to be deleting those apps from my phone. And it's not to say that I don't have access to them. I can still use my laptop or even my iPad if I want to. Obviously, the UI is not as user-friendly on these desktop screens, but the point is to just try to get myself to not be on the computer or in front of a screen for so long, just trying to scroll and see what's new and what's happening in the world. Personally, I'm probably going to share with you guys my progress before the end of the year because I'm very interested to see how this actually pans out. I think I will have significantly reduced screen time, and I'm expecting to honestly be at around 2 hours of screen time a day, and we'll be going hopefully for a lot lower in the coming year. Let me know in the comments where you are at with your phone and screen time journey. Do you guys have as much screen time as me, or are you guys more balanced and relaxed and have your life together? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you are interested in Pakistani dramas, I'll link a playlist down below, or you can check it out in the end screen. Or if you want, I have a video where I share some tips on how to finish off the year strong as we prepare and move into the new year. And I will see you guys in the next one. Assalamu alaikum.